Your Salesforce org has hundreds of components, but not all connections are equal. Some components are so tightly woven together that changing one silently breaks the other, and you won't find out until the deployment falls in production. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to find those brittle pairs in under 3 minutes. Tight coupling in Salesforce means two components directly reference each other. Component A calls component B and B calls A back. AegionIQ calls this mutual coupling. It shows in the dependency graph as two edges going in opposite directions between the same pair of nodes. When you see this pattern, you have a brittle pair. Deploy a change to one class without updating the other, and the deployment breaks every time without warning. Let's find this in real org. I am on AegionIQ dashboard. I'll click on the dependency. When the page first opens, the canvas is blank. It's waiting for you to pick a starting point. On the left, you will see the full list of metadata components. The graph has already scanned Apex classes, triggers, flows, objects, and more. You search or filter by type or find what you need. The moment I select a component, the graph builds around it. The selected node sits at the center. Nodes connected to it fan out in a circle. Blue are Apex class, orange are trigger, yellow are flow. The lines between them are edges, showing the actual dependency direction. To start mutual coupling, start by picking a class you know is heavily used. I'll search for AccountService. The graph recenters on AccountService and draws all its direct neighbors. On the downstream side, things AccountService calls. I can see there are opportunity service, notification service, case escalation service, health score calculator, and AccountTriggerHandler. On the upstream side, class that calls into AccountService, there are 7. AccountTriggerHandler, case escalation service, case trigger handler, health score calculator, notification service, opportunity service, and opportunity trigger handler. Now here's to what to look for. Do any of these downstream nodes also appear upstream? If yes, that's a mutual coupling. Account trigger handler shows on both sides. Account service calls it, and account trigger handler calls account service back. That's our first brittle pair. And there's a second one. Case escalation service also appear on both sides. This org has two mutual coupling pair, both anchored to account service. Let me click account trigger handler to confirm from its side. Now account trigger handler is the origin. Its downstream nodes are health score calculator, account service, notification service, and account object. Its upstream, things that call account trigger handler, I see account service and health score calculator. Account service appears in both two edges, two directions, confirmed mutual coupling. AegionIQ draws both arrows when mutual coupling exists. You can see the call label on each direction. Two arrows between the same pair is your visual signal. And notice health score calculator is also on both sides here. So account trigger handler and health score calculator are a third brittle pair in this org. Here's why this causes deployment failure. Salesforce compiles Apex class in dependency order. If class A depends on B and class B depends on class A, the compiler can't resolve which one to compile first. So let's assume we are deploying account service only. The compiler would ask, does account service depend on anything? If the answer is yes, the account trigger handler, then compiler would ask, what does account trigger handler depends on, and can it compile cleanly? The answer is no, because it references AccountService, which is mid-deploy. Therefore, the deployment would end in a error and it would say invalid class and needs recompilation. The fix is always the same. Deploy both classes together every time. And the faster you find the pair, the sooner you can add it to your deployment checklist. Once you have AegionIQ, you don't have to hunt node by node or class by class. If you want a full list of mutually coupled pairs, all you have to do, ask the Governance Copilot which Apex class have mutual dependency, and it will do the heavy lifting for you. Of course, it will ask you to spend some tokens, but then the smart AI feature of AegionIQ will go into your code base, scan for permissions, scan for dependency, automation rules, and it will try to come up with all the classes that have mutual pairing, and it will show you the result with a coupling weight, so you know which pair have the most cross references and are therefore the highest risk. In this case, the governance AI tells you that Apex Dependency Graph identified 12 mutually coupled class pairs across 8 distinct Apex classes. AccountService is the most heavily coupled node, participating in 5 of the 12 circular dependency pairs, making it a high-risk hub for deployment failure, test isolation issues, and cascading regressions. The coupling pattern spans both service and trigger handler layers, indicating systemic architectural concern rather than isolated incidents. So that was its overall high-level summary about the Apex Dependency Graph identified. Then it also detected issues, and this number tells us how many issues it found. So the highest AccountService with 5 of 12 dependency, then case escalation service with 3 mutual dependency, and then health score calculator, which also has mutually coupled with AccountService, trigger handler, and spanning multiple domains, making isolated testing very difficult. It also presented medium level complexity of coupling, where it is just bidirectional, and these are the classes which are at risk. It is also going to tell you what are the governance risks, like this is a systemic circular Apex dependency, which means your org deployment would get impacted if one component is updated and the other one is not part of that deployment. And there are some recommendations provided by Governance AI over here, which is like to introduce an interface or abstraction layer to break all bidirectional dependencies involving AccountService. Enforce strict unidirectional dependency rule for all trigger handler classes, like it should not have a cyclic, which would result in a deployment failure. So these are the output that dependency graph in AegionIQ can tell you before you do your deployment. So therefore, tight coupling is invisible until it's too late. Unless you're looking at the dependency graph, that's your signal. Find them now, add both to your deployment, and stop the deployment failures before they start. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for